Everyone wants more money, but most of us weren't taught how to create an abundant life. That's where the More Money Show comes in. If you're ready to have more money, create more freedom, and experience more fun, turn the volume up. It's time to learn how to create the prosperity and life you have been dreaming of. Here's your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the More Money Show. Today, I am here with Jeanne, the menopause guru. I am your host, Cassie Parks, and I am excited today because this is one of those interviews that I wanted to happen. I was intending someone would be courageous enough to do in the Year of Growth series because we're going to talk about sometimes what's not awesome and what's not pretty, and the things you go through, the kind of the hard and the unpleasant of growth, the scary stuff. And we're going to talk about that today. So thank you for being here, Jeanne. Thank you for being courageous. I'm excited about this interview.
Thank you, Cassie, for having me. I'm excited as well. A little
Awesome.
nervous.
Well, this is going to help so many people because I think it's important to share. You know, we always share like all the good stuff, and I am all about sharing that. But I also, the thing is that there's good stuff now right after you've gone through that. I mean, one of the things I said when we got on today was, you know, I said, "How are you?" And she says, "Fantastic." And I said, "It's awesome," because it's almost like you've forgotten the last 2 weeks, which is great because they haven't been super easy or super fun. So
That's true.
yes. So let's start here. Tell me what's awesome.
Well, what's awesome, my business is going really well, and I had just the most fabulous weekend. This past weekend, when we're recording this, is Easter, and my husband had a half day on Friday, and we just took the whole afternoon to be together and to have fun and do some of the things that we love to do most. And I just said, I'm taking the half day as well. So then we had a fantastic weekend, and I've gotten up and charged into my week in all kinds of amazing ways.
I love that. And why was this, you know, you said this was a future self weekend, and why is that?
Well, my future self knows that you don't have to work hard and all the time and 18 hours a day, every day, but that we do our businesses and we do what we love partly to support ourselves in being the people that we want to be. And the person that I want to be takes time for her husband, takes time for her family, takes time to enjoy life. And that's what I did this weekend.
I love it. That's so exciting. So I'm excited to get into this part too. So Jeanne is the menopause guru. She helps women go through their menopause journey, which I'm going to have her define in a minute. And we've been working on her business and how to solidify bringing in the clients that she wants to bring in and serving them the way that she wants to serve them. So for us, just give us the quick definition of menopause journey.
So menopause journey is my term for your journey from when your reproductive system starts to slow down to sometime after your periods stop and your body settles back into a normal pattern.
Yeah. And so what I've learned by coaching Jeanne is that there's all these symptoms that come along with that change because your body changes, your hormones change, different things happen. And so what Jeanne does is she first serves her clients by helping them with the most annoying or the most frustrating symptom that they're experiencing. So as we've gone through and Jeanne's gone through the path to paying client, and we do this actually monthly because she has a new path that we create every month for a new system. Because as we looked at her business from this perspective of this path to paying client and how do we attract and how does she show up? Because that's as much about it. How does she show up for the clients that she wants to attract? We realized that doing a symptom a month is awesome. And it also sets her business up to be very smooth and easy, which is part of what her future self lives, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, a couple weeks ago, one of the processes that we've set up, it wasn't working the way it's worked, right? So you want to talk a little bit about that?
So we created something around brain fog or the way thinking changes. And we put together a couple of ads, a couple of Facebook ads, and I'm sorry, but my cat has decided to play in this. And they were really cute and they were really attractive, and they made people stop and look and click, but nobody was signing up for the emails, and I started to panic a little bit.
Mhm.
And I thought, this isn't working. What do I need to do? What do I have to change? What's wrong? And of course, what's wrong with me that they're not showing up for me?
Mhm.
And I was panicking, and I think I called you, or one of our calls we got on, and I was just like, this just isn't working. I need to do something different. I have to change.
Yeah. And so we started to look at it. And there were a few things that maybe from a technical perspective could work. But what I've learned about when you're attracting clients, when you are being who you're being in your business, that we, first of all, we knew this process worked, right? We had evidence. And I think even at one point you said, I looked back and I said, oh, I do know how to do this. Like you had become somebody who could write an email sequence and who could put up an autoresponder and who could do those things that attracted paying clients, right? And that was new. And so
Yeah.
we looked at it and I said, there's some stuff that's okay. We could look at some stuff to try. We could do the typical marketing stuff, but there was something else, right? There was something else underneath it. And when
Very
we
true.
got into that, do you want to talk a little bit about what that was?
So the first thing I realized was I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time in my business, I wasn't scared of things not working. I was scared of things working. And I didn't quite understand that. And because I wanted this to work as long as I've been doing it. And I want this change for people. I want people to be able, women to be able to come through menopause happily and joyfully. But I was scared of getting all the clients that I wanted and of making all the money that I needed. And I didn't quite know why.
Yeah.
And we started talking about it. And we started talking about a project that I've put off and put off and put off. And it has to do with how money is flowing in and out of my business. And frankly, it was something that scared me. It was setting up the accounting systems and watching my money and seeing whether or not I was making my numbers and what numbers I was making and how much I was spending to make those numbers terrified me.
Mm-hmm.
If I was doing it, was I actually making the money I wanted? Was I going to wind up making trouble for myself with tax systems and making payments and insurance and all of these things that were really pretty scary. They're really business oriented. They're not coaching oriented. I wasn't scared that I couldn't serve my clients. I knew I could do that. But I was scared that I couldn't be a good businesswoman. And I needed to put those systems into place. And I needed to look back at some numbers and things that I just shoved off to the side for too long had to be looked at. And they were scary.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I want to step back a minute before we go a little more into that fear, because we realized you were scared of it working, right? And scared
Right.
because it really means I have to fully step into that coach, right? Like you're an amazing coach. You always have gotten results, right? When you've gotten clients,
Right.
but part of that fear was, oh, but how will my life change? Will I lose my freedom if I have all these clients? If everything works, right? Keeps working, will I lose that? Will I? And so there's all of these fears that came up about fully stepping into being a successful coach, right? As well.
Right.
Yeah. And then as we went and I gave you the advice that have been giving you and we have been working through for the last probably 18 months in front of this, is like, feel it, right? And feel it, and
Mm-hmm.
feel it, and give yourself time to feel it. And you kept feeling it, but it kept coming. And finally you said, I think I have to attack. I think I have to make the fear even bigger. I have to go into the biggest fear I can think of and really bring every single part of that fear to the surface.
You bet.
And feel it, right? And then you did it. And that's really, then it was, as you went through that fear, it was easy to see like, oh yeah, this project, there is a reason that fear, like it was all connected to that fear of being a business person, but you had to be willing to go into the fear.
Exactly.
And so I want to talk about, because you haven't always been willing to go into the fear, right?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. That was a journey and a process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what's the difference? Because you went head on. I mean, I am still amazed because, so as a coach and as being supportive in this process, we just set up a system. It was like, okay, how do you need to be supported? And it was like every step forward I take, I need to tell you. And I'm like, great, tell me. I'm going to be looking so I can say, great job, because you need that when you're going through fear, right?
Yeah, and there was I gotta say that for me there was this thing that said, oh my God, you're being such a baby about this. You're asking for somebody to pat you on the head or pat you on the back every time you take a step. And it felt like I was being really stupid and childish about it. And honestly, when I started doing it, and you've said to do that before, and I've never really stepped into it. I've always said, oh, pull up your big girl panties and just do it. Just bang through it. But whenever I did that, I wasn't getting, my brain would say, yeah, okay, you just finally taken the step you should have taken 2 years ago. And when I tell you that I'd taken that step and you come back and say, boy, that's awesome, I'd realize that I really was doing something that scared me, that was important, that was big, that wasn't um, just something I should have already been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that process in place where I could say to you 10 or 15 times a day, and it really literally is that often that I'm sending out a message to you and saying, yep, got up and went in and got the other box of papers that I need to deal with. And even if all I do is get them and bring them into my space, you would say, great job. You've done something. You've stepped forward. And when I do the next step, you'd say, great job, step forward. And if I get stuck somewhere, you'd say, set it aside and figure it out later. Just take another step. And so I was just taking step after step after step. And yeah, there's still some steps to come through. But slowly and surely, the fear of doing this has lessened. And I think as I go through this, I'm finding myself in a better place to be a, a real business person, not just, I don't know, some
Hobbyist.
little kid, little kid with a lemonade stand.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yeah, because it's big, it's big steps. And I was so glad that you took me up on like, let's take the step, because I think a lot of things that you're saying are valid, right? It feels like, oh, I'm being a little kid and I'm just need to pull up my big girl pants. But when we're in fear, often we are like, something in us goes back to that fear of being a kid, right? And so, okay, come on, just take that one more step, or just, like that's what we get when we're kids, and that's what we need is, okay, just get to the edge of the pool. Okay, now stick your arms out. Good job. Now jump in, right?
Exactly. Daddy's here to catch you. Cassie's here to catch you.
Right. And we'll get through it. And it's knowing you can take that step is, often I think the reason that we don't do these things that are big and scary and scare us, is a lot of times they are connected to growth. Like the other side of this is a completely different version of yourself. right?
It really is.
I mean, so different. I mean, we can see visions of it now. I can't even wait, 2 weeks from now, it's going to be even bigger. But, but I've seen her. I know your future self, so I know a lot of what it is. But it's also, so that is scary when we do the things and we convince ourselves they shouldn't be scary because this is paper or it's numbers or it's just this thing.
Or everybody else does it.
Right. Everybody else does it. They haven't had this problem, right? But when it's about stepping into who we are and we've created, because a lot of times we create this stuff in the past, right? I think part of you created this in the past to not have to move forward, to have this place, right? Do you think there's
Yeah,
truth in that?
I think so. I think so. There's this has been several years of knowing that this whole thing had to get straightened out, and knowing that I needed to take that step and I needed to be that person, and I just wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I think often that happens. We do that in the past and then it gets bigger and then we have to, and it's when it's about stepping into our future selves and it's about clearing that, the fear gets even more. So there's the fear of this project that is scary. And then it combines with this fear of, once I do this, I can't go back, because it's true. Once this project is over, you can't go back to the woman who it doesn't work for. Her business doesn't work. She's not, like, you don't get to go back to that because it's no longer an
No.
option, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so then you fully get to become, okay, this is what works. I get clients. I have a successful business, all of that. So yeah. Anything else you want to share on that part before I ask you about going through the fear?
No, I think I think that kind of covers it. I think there were some other things that I want to say, but yeah, that's where I was, and it it really has been a journey for me, and it's a journey about knowing more strongly what I'm capable of and what my clients are capable of, because a lot of times my clients are in this same fear uh, of moving forward, and it's unknown. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. We go through our menopause journey and all of a sudden we're becoming somebody that we don't quite know, and I think there's a similar fear, so I think it's really helpful for me to revisit this kind of fear.
Yes. And you feel pretty good right now, right? Maybe
Yeah,
even fantastic. I mean, you said fantastic. I was like, oh, yay.
fantastic.
Yeah. But that isn't what the last 2 weeks felt like, right?
No.
And so,
In fact, I was going to say one of the things about taking Friday afternoon off was that I was exhausted from the
Mhm.
last 2 weeks
Yeah.
of going through this.
Yeah. And so, because it's not fun to feel the fear, right? It's
No,
not fun to go through that.
it's it's not fun to not know. Um, you know, I do weird adventure sports, and when I go out and do something like kayaking down a river that scares me a little bit, it's sort of like you go through a rapid and you know that you're going to be afraid or that you're going to feel the fear as you go in, and then you're going to come to the other side and it's going to be over, and you know that's a few seconds or a couple of minutes at most. And this was just so big and so overwhelming that it's it's taken a lot. There have been nights that I haven't slept well. There have been days when I just got up dreading it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and so Friday afternoon was really good for me to just step back from that and just relax.
Yeah. And knowing what you know now and how you feel today, was it worth it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say that this project isn't over, and I still have probably another week to 2 weeks of work on it. But I know now that even just having taken this breather and saying you've gotten this far, that it's going to be so much better when I'm done.
Mm, yeah. I love that. And, we had a conversation about, I think there was something in the middle, and it's like, because obviously there was you had to go through this fear to open that door back up. And we had a conversation about, well, it's still not working. I changed this thing and it's still not working. And I said, yeah, because you're like, you can't serve anybody right now. Right. I mean, really,
Yeah.
in a good way. Like,
Well,
you
I can serve a
serve
few
them.
people. I
Yeah.
can serve a couple of people. I am working actually, and that was one of the things that sort of helped me. And I don't know, you might have been planning to ask this later, but as soon as I felt like I was in it and knew that I was going to get through it, it was like this whole thing opened up, and that very same
Yes.
set of emails actually started working.
Yes. And that is where I was going.
And so I've been talking to new people, and I've been working with new clients, and that, just like out of the blue, and where I was feeling stalled before, all of a sudden I made that space, and that started working. And I know that as soon as that space continues to open up, I know that more people who are hearing my message that menopause does not have to be the worst thing that ever happened to you. Believe me, that's much easier than this project, honestly.
It's especially easier if you have you as a coach and a guide, right?
Exactly, because there are places where your life can just open up for you. And I know that, knowing now that I'm opening that space, that there are other people who are willing and ready to step into the space and talk to me about what their life can be.
Yes. And I want to clarify. I didn't mean that you couldn't take on any clients. I meant new clients in that when you were in the depth of that sphere space,
Yeah.
we don't like, I got to get out so I can get this done, but you got to feel it. You couldn't take on anyone new. You were still serving the clients that you had beautifully,
Yeah.
but and wonderfully, and amazing cool stuff still happened in the middle. I'm remembering these amazing testimonials that you got that literally happened in the middle of these dark trenches, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
could serve, but you couldn't open up the space for anyone new. And I'm so glad that you highlighted that, because as soon as you started
As
to come
soon
out
as.
of it, like literally it was like, oh, gotta like same emails. And I think that this is what is so important about the energetic component of being a coach and attractive leader, is that we often go to try and fix the thing, right? It must be the emails, it must be this. And yeah, you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I do, because for years I've been chasing the magic bullet,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always been the next guru who has, and I shouldn't use that word, the next business coach who has a set of emails, or um, subject lines for emails, or systems or programs, or why you can do this, or how you can talk to clients. And it's all preset, and it's all formulaic, and it's not truth. So now, one of the things that I've learned working with you is that each set of clients is very, very different from every other set of clients. And the clients who are going to come to you, if you're a coach or if you've got something that people need, are the people who are going to be attracted to the truth of what you've got. And that can't come from a 7-step formula or a 14-point long letter or whatever it is. You've got to be able to offer them the truth of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference in the work that we've been doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's so true. You can't, especially I love doing it with your clients too, because they all are so different. And we get to go back and forth and say, oh no, she wouldn't see it that way. She wouldn't use that. She wouldn't like that word. She would love if he said it like this. Right.
Right.
And so it's that energetic truth of telling them. And it's also that energetic, who are you being and how are you showing up? Like, are you, have you now, in order, and a lot of times we don't see this, but in order for you to take on, because you were having success, right? And it wasn't like, oh, there was no success, and it was like,
Right.
oh, things are working. And then it kind of stopped working. And it was energetically, because you have to get through this mountain in order to have the space for all these clients and be able
Yes.
to welcome them in a way. Because if you were constantly afraid of this project that you hadn't done and becoming this businesswoman and learning how to do these things, like you couldn't welcome anymore, because you just couldn't handle a successful business and that amount of fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was, it's opened up an amazing feeling about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and who I'm reaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, knowing that makes it so much easier to finish this project.
I love that. And have you tried to distract yourself at all instead of
Of course I
go
have.
through this?
Of course I have. So the first distractor was, let's change the words of the ad.
Right.
And the second distractor was, well, maybe I should rewrite my first book. And the third distractor was, oh, I don't even know. Something else came along, and I kept coming back with, shouldn't I do this and shouldn't I do that? And oh, I know, I was gonna email everybody whose card I have, which is probably about 4,000 business cards, many of whom don't have that email address or anything anymore. But I was going to email them all warm letters, and since I was going to write each one, that should take me until at least December to not get anything done.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah, because honestly, that would have been the best use of my time. And I mean, even I will say that even this weekend, I've come up with 2 or 3 new schemes to distract myself.
Yes.
But instead, I sat down this morning and I did some things that I knew were part of everything that I'm doing to move forward on this, which was to get some emails done and then to plan for this call. And then this afternoon, I'm back to the project for 2 to 3 hours. And by the way, when you got a project like this, I do a 45-minute hour and a 15-minute break. And sometimes it's a 45-minute
and a 15-minute. You got to do what you got to do, right?
You got to do what you got to do. Yeah. So it's the time I'll take my dog for our daily walk. It's the time when I'll go out and putter in my garden because that makes me happy. It's the time when I'll look at the project and say, is there a part of this that's not quite so scary? So one of the pieces of this was cleaning up my office and actually going through a whole bunch of stuff and throwing out what wasn't any good. So that was a day when I couldn't cope with anything else on the project. I could do that.
Yeah.
I could throw away things that were clearly trash.
Yeah. So this interview, thinking about emails on the brain, we're going to go into a second part of this for sure, because we're going to need to record a second, because I still have so much on my list to talk about. But while we're talking about distractions, I actually want to go back to where this thing started. So you've learned, and there's been distractions, and we've had conversations about that as a distraction. We've had tough conversations about, you want to go off in this direction because you don't want to move forward, right? And
yes,
I remember where I actually think this whole fear and this stepping in thing came up, and it came from honoring. It came from we were in a coaching call and we were talking about writing fiction books, novels. And I said, oh yeah, I know you want to do that. When are you going to write that? And you said, I have other things I need to focus on right now. That is not like, I am committed to this, right? And it's almost like the next day, once you said, I am committed to not having this, just like this, everything shifted in that moment. And all this stuff just came up, and all this fear. And then the emails stopped working. And it really goes back, and I believe, to that moment where you said no. Like, that's where you put your feet in the sand and you said, I am moving forward. I am going to become fully this woman who is the menopause guru and runs this business. And so I just want to highlight that, because often we say that and we go full in, and then that's when everything starts to break down, because it has to.
I hadn't even remembered that part of the conversation. And I love to write. And I had this fiction book that, we talked about a while back, and it's just, I've put it aside. I put a lot of things aside that I think are really distractions for me. And so this project is not a distraction.
It's
at all.
not. No.
It's the key.
It is the key. Yeah. And it was really saying, no, I'm not going to do the distractions that then brought this project and this other, and, and stepping into your future self even more. Both of those are together up to the forefront that had to be done, because you just said, no, I'm not going to be distraction. And this is absolutely not a distraction. This is 100% forward movement.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we will definitely, again, I have a whole list of questions. We're going to talk about Manifest 10K, and I want to talk about that. But any final thoughts as we wrap up this part of this interview today?
I think I think fear is really a huge, huge part of the road signs for us. And it's embracing the fears. And that seems kind of weird in a lot of ways, because especially when you talk with a lot of people about law of attraction and feeling good and going towards the feelings that are the emotions that you want and things like that. And then to realize that the fears are really road signs to the important stuff, the things that you've got to deal with.
Yes.
And to realize that once you're through them, they were just fears.
Yes.
They weren't really monsters under the bed. They were fears.
They were fears. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to thank Jeanne. Thank you all for listening, and make sure to tune into the next episode, because we're going to continue this and show how becoming the person who things work for also leads to manifesting lots of money. So stay tuned. Check out the next interview. Check out Jeanne at menopauseguru.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us on The More Money Show. To learn how to attract more money into your life, go to your favorite book retailer and order Cassie's book, Manifest $10,000.